It's a touchdown! McLaurin!
Justin Fields put the biscuit in the basket.
Barkley will take it into the end zone. 54 yards.
Caught for the touchdown! Corey Davis!
By himself, Tyreek Hill.
J.D. McKissick soaring to the goal line. It is 6 for Washington. Deebo Samuel, 76-yard house call. My goodness.
Welcome in, everyone, to the Lucky Shots podcast. I am Ricky Larson. Jacob is back. He, had work and other things, real work going on. So he wasn't able to join us for a while, but he should be back for a little bit at least. So Jacob, how you been?
Been pretty good. It's been a very interesting football season. I've been telling you, outside of like 4 teams, it seems like every team is at least kind of good.
Right.
So that's really nice.
Well, and then, that kind of hops into what I want to talk about first. Thoughts on last week. The Jets got their first win against the Titans.
That's the crazy thing. I mean, I know the Titans were missing both A.J. Brown and Julio Jones, but that doesn't affect their defense. At least it shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, I know that they will probably they maybe don't have as good offense or on the field as much, but that was crazy.
Yeah.
And then the Giants getting their first win on the road in New Orleans. I mean, yeah, I know it. I'm still alive in my survivor pool, but I know 2 people in my survivor pool picked the Saints, and now they're out because of that. So
yeah, the Saints are a team that I'm not sure about at all. I actually got them on here, and makes you wonder what they're doing with their offense because, Alvin Kamara had 0 targets. And that's how their offense normally runs anyway. So it was a weird game to watch. And besides the fluke game against the Packers, they kind of got their butts kicked against the Panthers. They didn't get their butts kicked against the Giants, but they lost. And they looked good against the Patriots, but the Patriots only just this week looked good at all. So, kind of...
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to... That's one team I have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, if we were categorizing them, they'd be in the who the hell knows category. But other than that, we'll hop into news real quick. Some kind of big news, I guess. Josh Gordon was reactivated by the league. Talked about that last week. He signed the next day with the Chiefs to their practice squad. Well, on Tuesday, he was signed to the 53-man roster, and it looks like he may make an actual debut Sunday against the Bills. That's kind of cool, I guess.
It's cool. I don't expect too much from this. I feel like this has happened for a couple of years. He had, I think, his one breakout year was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. And ever since then, it's just been on and off. He had a brief stint with the Patriots back in 2019, I believe, or 2018. I don't remember the exact year. I think it might have been 2018. But other than that, he hasn't really... I don't expect too much, especially because how old is he at this point? I feel like he's been in and out for a while.
Yeah.
When you take the age and the fact that he's not really in football shape, I don't expect
he'd
too
have
much.
to be upper 20s, I'd say.
I'd say the youngest is 29.
Yeah.
I look at him.
But I don't know. It's kind of a deep threat, I guess. If they signed him up to the 53-man roster right away, can't be that bad,
Yeah, we'll have to see.
I think at most, at least for fantasy even, he might catch one pass, and it might just be that deep ball for a touchdown.
We got doggy here.
Yeah. Jimmy Garoppolo got a calf injury. Shanahan said he could play on Sunday, but does he honestly need to? Trey Lance went 9 of 18 for 157, 2 touchdowns, and had 7 carries for 41 yards. One of those touchdowns was a deep bomb to Debo. I think they'd honestly be all right sticking with Trey Lance against, I believe they play the Seahawks this week. Is that who they play?
No, they don't play the Seahawks. The 49ers play Arizona.
Ooh, yeah.
Seahawks.
Either way,
I honestly, I would say stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. Just because I've said this, Jimmy Garoppolo is one of the most unnecessarily hated quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, if you look at Kyle Shanahan's win percentage without him compared to with him, it's hard to say that he's a bad quarterback. Now, I completely understand them drafting Trey Lance just because the dude can't stay healthy.
Yes.
But I do agree if he is questionable, just go with Trey Lance for a game. But if he's healthy, Jimmy Garoppolo isn't Andy Dalton over Justin Fields. He isn't, Cam Newton. He's better than those guys. Like, he can win you a lot of games. He can bring you to the playoffs. And as you can see, he can bring you to the Super Bowl and almost won it.
Well, here's the thing. We saw what happened last year when he tried to play through injury. Couldn't plant, couldn't throw, looked terrible. Why not just set him? Let him get through this calf injury. Don't even mess with it. You've got somebody in Trey Lance who is competent, can go out and at least play and compete. Let Garoppolo get through the injury and don't go out there and risk anything happening, especially against Arizona, who has Chandler Jones, who had 5 sacks first week, and an Arizona defense that's looked really good all season. I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see because Shanahan said he could play, so something to monitor.
Yeah, I completely agree that if it's questionable, just to let him rest. Don't force him out there.
And you got Joe Mixon had an ankle injury on Sunday. Or no, excuse me, they played Thursday. Low-grade ankle sprain. Samaje Perine will fill in if Mixon is out for an extended amount of time. David Montgomery's in the same situation. His is a knee injury, not thought to be an ACL. Damian Williams will fill in if Montgomery is out for an extended time. And then a lesser running back, Tony Jones Jr., has an ankle injury, out 3 to 4 weeks. The Saints immediately started working out Lamar Miller, Duke Johnson, other backs like that. But with Tony Jones Jr. going out, do we finally get the expected workload that we drafted Alvin Kamara in fantasy football for?
It's really kind of hard to say. It does appear that Sean Payne perhaps is going to what most of the league is going for, which is that multiple running back committee. I mean, at this point, how many teams aren't doing that? 3 off the top of my head. The Panthers,
how many teams
the Titans,
have Alvin
and the Giants.
Kamara?
But that's the thing. Still, I mean, the Titans, Panthers, and it looks like the Giants are still going with one running back.
He's still getting his volume. He's just getting it all on the ground now, which that doesn't make any sense.
I agree.
He's never been an actual running back where you give him 25 carries a game.
I agree. It doesn't make sense. But when you look and teams like the Vikings and the Cowboys are doing running back committees, like I said, there's only 3 teams that appear to still be going just hard with one running back.
Well, okay, then shift that over. Get an actual guy who will run the football and let Alvin Kamara be Alvin Kamara.
I don't know why they got rid of Latavius Murray. I thought he was a really good backup.
Yeah, and now he's pretty much cemented himself as a starter over it for Baltimore, but it just doesn't make any sense to me. If Kamara is that receiving back and that's what he's good at, what are we doing?
And like I said, Sean Payton isn't stupid, so
he seems like it. If I'm being honest, he seems like it.
I mean,
you throw your offense for the past however many years has been throw the ball to Alvin Kamara and Michael Thomas on a slant when he's in. That's been your offense. What the hell are you trying to change? Especially with Jameis Winston, who I
feel like you'd want to do it more.
Yes, and they threw him Taysom Hill for no damn reason. He got a touchdown, so. I don't know what the Saints are doing.
Run?
Yeah, it was a good run.
That was amazing.
So, I mean, I don't know what the hell they're doing. Put Taysom Hill in as your actual running back. Shit. I mean...
They need to use Taysom Hill more because he's like the best receiver on the team with Michael Thomas going.
He's the highest paid player right now, I think.
I'm not surprised. I mean, he could do a lot of things. I'm surprised they're not using him more. They finally did last week, and I'm like, thank you, but... I don't know why they didn't the first 3 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know what the Saints are doing. Like we said before we got into news, who the hell knows what's going on with the Saints?
How good are they? I mean,
yeah. And then, small news. Who cares? Brady and Belichick had like a 20-minute closed conversation after the game on Sunday night. Neither will comment on the discussion. Whoop-de-doo.
I'm done with this conversation.
I don't know why that's news.
Everyone likes to assume they know what their relationship is.
The only thing is, I have to say, I do apologize. Last week, I was bashing that this was the Sunday night game because I didn't think it was going to be a good game. It turned out to be an all right game. Competitive. Mac Jones looked all right, so got to apologize for that.
If you consider throwing 2-yard passes the whole game.
It was a competitive game, though. I mean, the Bucs didn't go out and blow him out.
I think, and this is exactly why I didn't want the Bears to draft him. That's all you're going to get from Mac Jones. Like, he's got the highest floor of any rookie quarterbacks, but he had the lowest ceiling. That dude's not going to be any better than what you saw Sunday night. I'm telling you right now. That's my opinion.
Well, I'll wait to give a good opinion until we just see the whole season. Because I still like Mac. But, again, haven't seen much from him this season.
He would have been absolutely terrible with the Bears, though. Let's be honest.
Yeah, he would have been probably not very good anywhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's hop into the top players real quick. At the quarterback position, shocker, it was Patrick Mahomes. Had 31.72 points, 278 through the air, 5 touchdowns, an interception. Carried the ball 5 times for 26 yards. Pretty good game for the Chiefs, especially bounce back after losing to the Chargers.
I do think they're better than people are starting to write them off, which is ridiculous. And I do think they're a little better than what people think. But that was the Eagles. They're not very good. So I want to see what, and that defense still gave up 30 points.
Yeah.
I want to see what they do against Buffalo. If they lose closely, that's fine. I don't think they'll be blown out. But I do like Buffalo slightly in this game. This is going to be a very good game, though.
Yeah, I like Buffalo better just because.
Kansas City is favored 2.5. And now usually, since they're at home, you get a 3-point advantage usually. So the betting line is suggesting that Buffalo is a slightly better team.
I would say so. They've got a good defense.
I think Buffalo right now is actually a way better team. I just think that Kansas City matches up well against them.
Yeah.
Which, as we've seen in the past.
Offensive firepower, they both have.
Yeah.
At the running back position, Cordara Patterson. We will get into him a lot more later. 34.6 fantasy points. Only 6 carries for 34 yards, but had 6 targets, 5 receptions, 82 yards, and 3 touchdowns through the air. Fun fact, no other Falcon has had 3 touchdowns through the air, not even Julio Jones for the Falcons.
I thought Calvin really did in his rookie year. I'm going to fact check that.
I'm very
because I remember he had like 6 touchdowns.
Or at least Julio.
Okay.
That might have been the stat. Go ahead and check me, but the stat may have just been Julio. But either way, that's impressive. Because Julio, you think, is one of the better receivers ever for the Falcons. Then at the wide receiver position, you have Tyreek Hill, 47.6 fantasy points. Finally got off the schneid. Had 12 targets, 11 catches, 186 through the air, and 3 touchdowns. Fantastic. Finally, after 2 weeks of less than 10. Tyreek Hill.
Oh, yeah, he was a monster. I have him in my other league, and it was
yes,
amazing.
it's about time. 2 straight weeks of what the hell are you doing in my lineup because you haven't gotten anything. Part of the reason that I started out 0-3 this season.
He had a good week 1.
Yeah, but weeks 2 and 3.
Or kind of, yeah.
Yeah. And the tight end position, if you can tell me who the top tight end was this week, I don't know what I'll do, but I'll give you a high five at least.
Give me how many points he had.
26.5.
Just tell me.
CJ Uzama.
What
the
team is he
Bengals.
on? The Bengals, yes, that's right.
6 targets, 5 catches, 95 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I had a DraftKings lineup for that Thursday night game.
That's amazing.
And I don't know who the people were that put him in as their captain, where you get an extra, their score gets multiplied by 1.5. People had him in there, and they won.
Week 3, 2018, Calvin Ridley had 3 touchdowns against the Saints.
Okay.
I remember that because it was like his 3rd game, and everyone was like, whoa.
So I believe the stat then that I heard
I'm not surprised. Julio Jones doesn't score touchdowns for some reason.
But, fun stat.
Yeah, that is cool.
Cordara Patterson's a stud. But yeah, we'll get into the winners of last week as well. You had Sam Darnold, 31.54 fantasy points, 301 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns. He did have 2 interceptions, but redeemed himself on the ground with 2 rushing touchdowns. Sam Darnold legit?
I said at the beginning of the season, they were the 2 teams that I think are going to make the playoffs that we'll be surprised with the Panthers or the Giants. And I'm starting to look like the Giants one might have been a miss, but who knows? I did say the Giants would start out slow. I don't think they're as good as the Cowboys. And it's going to be hard to get a wild card in the NFC with the NFC West being so good.
Right.
But I said I think the Panthers are going to be a lot better. I'm really happy for Sam Darnold. This proves that, I mean, as sad as it sounds, it proves that the quarterback obviously really depends on the situation you land in.
Well, and if you play under Adam Gase, you're going to have a terrible career.
Exactly.
At any point.
Which proves why Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Considering what he did with Adam Gase as his coordinator.
Very true. This makes you happy. Saquon Barkley.
Yes, it does.
29.6 fantasy points. He had 13 carries, 52 yards and a touchdown, 5 receptions, 71 yards, and a touchdown through the air. Saquon back?
I would like to think so. Like I said earlier, it's nice to see that I have Saquon in my league, in both my leagues actually. It's nice to see that it seems like after the Titans, the Giants use Saquon Barkley more than any other team, obviously other than the Panthers, but McCaffrey's injured right now, so
right.
He's arguably like the second most running back out there after Derrick Henry.
I saw it actually back in the Washington game when he finally broke off. It was like a 20, 30-yard run. I was like, he's back. He's just, like, you can see it's there. Yeah. And I've just said it the past couple weeks. It's just his confidence, And I think it's there. I think he's back fully.
The Giants seem to be back as a whole as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Daniel Jones hasn't necessarily played terribly.
Daniel Jones has been good.
Yeah.
I mean, he's my backup quarterback. I've been starting Joe Burrow instead, but he's gotten like as much, if not more. It's just, it's hard to tell like if he'll do well, but he's been really good.
Yeah.
This year.
DJ Moore, I'm gonna have to apologize for him as well because I was not a fan
very
of
low
him.
on him. I remember.
He had 31.9 fantasy points, but here is the thing that I just harped on the most about him was he doesn't catch touchdowns, and he gets like a few targets throughout a game. He had 12 targets, 8 catches, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns, and then ran the ball once for 6 yards. Those targets, the touchdowns, everything's starting to come, together, and maybe it's just that Sam Darnold, is actually pretty good. And now DJ Moore has got maybe the best quarterback he's ever played with in an offense that, is actually starting to move on from just Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, I think like obviously in the long run it's better that they don't miss Christian McCaffrey, but I was surprised. I think it is partly because McCaffrey's injured, which is why DJ Moore is doing so well, but also just the fact that I assume that Robbie Anderson would be the number one. It appears that DJ Moore is the number one there. It really does look like that. And it's not really based on talent, just based on, Sam Darnold's preference. And by the way, I do want to point out that Daniel Jones' quarterback rating the last 2 years was 87 and then 80. This year it's 98. So he is improving.
It's going up, yeah. And then the tight end winner, Dawson Knox. 20.7 fantasy points, 8 targets, 5 catches, 37 yards, and 2 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure this is the second week he's had what you would call a breakout week from a tight end.
I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, the Bills have just been amazing to start the year.
So Dawson Knox, honestly, I don't know how rostered he is, but he's a guy that you should look at. I picked him up in at least one league. On waivers yesterday, but
I also want to give a shout out to my tight end Mike Gesicki, who had terrible weeks 1 and 2, but last week went 10 for 86, no touchdowns, but last week he went 5 for 57 with a touchdown, both 16 points and around 18 points respectively. He's starting to turn into the tight end I thought he would be. Maybe I thought that he would be someone that they threw in the receiver more. The first week he laid a goose egg, which I'm like, wait, what? And the second week he only had like 4 points, but I stuck with him. I tried to trade, but to Kyle Pitts. But
you also know who his quarterback's been the last 2 weeks?
Jacoby Brissett.
Yeah, not Tua. So maybe you want to hold off Tua coming back for a while.
I'm surprised because he did well with Tua last year.
He did, and that's why I was high on him to begin the season, and then nothing happened to start.
When will Kyle Pitts break out? That's the real question.
As
I projected him to be the number 2 tight end after Kelsey at the beginning of the year, and I still think he will because 2 years ago, through like 9 weeks, Austin Hooper on the Falcons with Matt Ryan was the number 1 tight end a couple years ago, and then Kelsey pulled away towards the end of the season.
We haven't seen, besides Cordara Patterson, we haven't seen anything offensively for Atlanta, and I mean you have Ridley getting, about 8 targets per week, but not 100 yards, not anything like that. I mean, this offense really doesn't know what it's doing. And maybe it's just that division, aside from the Buccaneers. And are the Panthers also? Yeah. The Saints are also in that division, so maybe it's just some of the teams in that division need to figure it out. But
I think it's a confusing team.
It is. Speaking of the Saints being confusing and Alvin Kamara and all of that, moving on to a segment called Tilting, on whether or not you should be worried about these players. Alvin Kamara, they're working on patios out there. They worked on ours and did it half-ass, so thanks for that if you guys are watching at all. So Alvin Kamara, are we tilting on him? He averages 14.5 points per game. Currently is the running back 15. He was drafted as the running back 3 average draft position there. Only has 10 receptions in 4 weeks, only 2 touchdowns, 3.8 a carry, 3 games of 20-plus carries. So, again, he's getting all of his volume on the ground and had 0 targets last week. How are we feeling about Alvin Kamara?
Well, let's just say whoever took Derrick Henry 4th is laughing right now.
Oh, for sure.
Shout out to my girlfriend who actually did that. But, yeah, I mean, he's just – I'm looking at his numbers. They're just – 10 receptions through 4 weeks? I thought he would get like 6 or 7 a week. I thought he's going to be like – competing with maybe not as good as McCaffrey, but I thought he'd be getting be number 2 in running back receptions. But he's just, and I said this before, especially with Jameis Winston. He's someone that's interception prone. Just toss it to your running back. It's nice and easy.
Yeah,
I don't get it. 0 rushing touchdowns too, which is another thing that's crazy considering he had 6 in 1 game last year.
Well, he has somewhere in the neighborhood of 3 games with 20-plus carries. Am I thinking of that right?
Yeah, 20. His first game he went 20 for 83. Second game went 8 for 5. And then the third game went 24 for 89.
Yeah.
Last week was good, 26 for 120. But the 120 yards rushing were his only points. No receptions, no touchdowns, no receiving yards either,
so that's
obviously.
Nearly 80-ish touches on the ground without a touchdown or anything like that.
I would still say he's going to do well. There's no way they're just going to leave Kamara out of it. I don't see how.
I don't know. I drafted him in the work league, and I'm trying to sell.
If we go back, I did say that of the top 6 running backs, he was the one that I was not high on.
He was the 6th one that fell. So, yeah. It was just.
Like I said, I had Barkley as my number. I had Barkley as number 3. And I have Derrick Henry as number 4. Derrick Henry,
he's PPR prone.
Exactly. I always rank him like not at the same level as McCaffrey because of PPR, but the dude rushes for like 150 yards every week. It's like week 1 he had a bad week. He still had like 11 fantasy points, and then week 2 he had 50.
Right. Yeah.
The dude, he's the number 1 running back right now in fantasy, which I assume he's probably the number 1 running back in NFL just based off volume share. So, but yeah, as far as going back to Kamara, I'm getting off track. When I said that I'm low on him, I actually revalued. I was like, maybe he's probably better. Maybe he might be better than I'm thinking, just because of the Jameis Winston thing. But they're still not. I don't get it. Yeah, I really don't get it.
He still hasn't been there.
He's their best offensive player. They're not using him.
I'm tilting on him. Another running back. Kind of on that edge is Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. He's only got 12.3 points per game this season. The running back 22. He was only drafted as the 14th running back, so not a big dip there, but only has 2 touchdowns. But on the bright side, he's had back-to-back 100-yard games with a touchdown. So he's starting to trend up. Was he just kind of a slow start? We're starting to get there, or
he could have been a slow start. I just think he's not very good.
Yeah,
he's just kind of underwhelming. If you just, I mean, he's small, which is fine, but he's not as fast as you would expect for someone that's small.
Right.
And especially because when they drafted him higher than Kareem Hunt, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's going to be amazing. If they're drafting him, if they think he's better, I mean, if they're drafting him higher than Kareem Hunt, they obviously think he's better than him.
Right.
And Kareem Hunt was just amazing. He blew everyone's expectations away, and everyone's like, oh, it's just the Chiefs' offense. Clearly that isn't the case because Hilaire doesn't. And I thought he was going to be amazing too because Damian Williams was good in that Chiefs' offense.
Yeah,
so
and
I just don't think he's very good.
Well,
that's really what it comes down to, in my opinion.
The fact that he pretty much was brought in to be a receiving back and hasn't done a shred of that in a season in 4 games now, I don't know. So some possible running backs to look at that would you rather have these guys? DeAndre Swift.
I'd rather have DeAndre Swift than
either one.
Are we talking about compared to Hilaire?
Hilaire or Kamara.
I'd rather have Swift over Hilaire, not Kamara.
I would take Swift right now over both.
Over Kamara, really.
Being that I have had to live through 4 weeks of Alvin Kamara doing nothing, I would rather have anything else. James Robinson.
Nah, James Robinson doesn't really look like he's doing anything.
I know he's averaging 16.
I just expected a little bit more from him.
As did I, especially with ETN going out. But this one hits close to home for you. Kareem Hunt.
Kareem Hunt is starting to be the number 1 running back there. If you watch their games, I said this before. Kareem Hunt is better than Nick Chubb.
Yeah.
It's just they gave Nick Chubb the number 1 running back duties, and when they signed when they signed Hunt, they weren't just going to be like, oh, Hunt's our number 1 running back now. Hunt is better than Kareem Hunt. Or Hunt is better than Nick Chubb.
Yeah, and
he's the number 6 running back, and he's technically, quote unquote, the backup, which is insane.
Well, most of the, I guess you could say, bulk of the groundwork goes to Chubb. He had 100 yards last week on a few carries. I can't remember. I want to say 12.
Here, I'll pull up his numbers right now. He had 14 Which week were you talking about last week?
Last week.
He had 14 rushes for 69 yards and a touchdown, and he had a couple receptions. And
it?
also, I didn't even realize I have not really paid attention to James Robinson. I just realized he's had 20-plus points the last 2 weeks. So
yeah.
Maybe I'd go with James Robinson, because the first 2 weeks were terrible.
Yeah, he's starting to get involved. I mean, Urban Meyer, which we won't get into anything about Urban Meyer.
Seeing these top running backs are just hilarious. So Derrick Henry's number 1. No surprise there. Austin Eckler's number 2. I guess it's not that crazy. But then Corio Patterson's number 3. And then Aaron Jones, Ezekiel Elliott, who apparently I thought we all said was terrible. And then
he was.
Najee Harris.
The last 2 weeks happened.
And then Najee Harris and Kareem Hunt are the next 2, which is just, it's crazy to think about that. And then Christian McCaffrey is ahead of several guys, including Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, Clyde Edwards-Hilaire, and he's only played 2 games.
Mm-hmm. And then the last running back I would also think about, Chase Edmonds. He's a consistent about 15 points a week. He's at 14.9. I mean, the consistency has been there for Edmonds through every week. I mean, he's not going to have a blow-up game. He's not going to score you 25. But he is a touchdown away every week. Because he hasn't scored a touchdown. He's a touchdown away from being a 20-point game.
The last year he had a game where he had 3 touchdowns. He's very possible. He's probably he's the number 1 running back here. I know they use James Conner a lot, but
Conner gets all of the touchdowns. That's it.
It's a smart play because Conner's more of the physical running back.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind just starting him over. I would still probably take Hilaire just for the future, just because of the touchdowns.
He only has 2. Which is only 2 more than Edmonds.
It really looks like they really just put Conner in when they're inside the 5. So if Edmonds needs a touchdown, it's probably going to be from 15 yards out at least.
Which is possible.
It is possible.
But again, he's 1 touchdown away from being a 20-point guy every single week.
I still go Hilaire.
I would take Edmonds over both, again, because I'm just over Alvin Kamara. Period. That's it. And then some receivers to be tilting on. Calvin Ridley, only 14.6 per game, 22 ranked wide receiver right now, was drafted as the number 5. Only 1 touchdown, 0 100-yard games, 0 double-digit reception games, and no 20-plus point fantasy games so far. I'm still okay with him.
I have no idea what the hell the Falcons are doing. I thought Kyle Pitts and Calvin Ridley could be guys you can put on into it's just gonna be those two, and then Cordara Patterson shows up and just basically takes over the game. And as far as wide receivers go, because he's technically both a wide receiver and a running back, he's 5th. He's 4th on the running back list. He's 5th on the receiver list. This should be the Cordara Patterson show. We should just be talking about him.
Oh, trust me, we'll get there.
I wouldn't tilt on Ridley yet. Wait a couple weeks.
Yeah, and I mean, the past few weeks, because it didn't start out great, he's been getting there, getting a consistent amount of targets and receptions. But
he's
14
the 24th receiver right now.
But 14.6, it's decent. That's a flex play at the least. And DeAndre Hopkins, 14.4, who's drafted as the wide receiver 4, has 3 touchdowns this season. But all of those kind of came at the beginning of the year. 2 in the first week, 1 in the second, back-to-back weeks without a touchdown.
This is normally just surprises me.
3 straight games with under 5 receptions.
I mean, just look at some of these players that are doing better than him. Hunter Renfrow is doing better than him. Corey Davis is doing better than him.
I mean, he did have one whole game where he was pretty limited because he had hurt himself the game before.
And then last week he had Jalen Ramsey. So I'm not surprised with that one.
I mean,
look at the targets. I mean, he still has a good amount of targets.
No double-digit targets, though, and he was one of those top targeted guys last year. And
he's
now
what I wouldn't
we're kind of seeing the ball get spread around more. So is it just something we're going to have to temper our expectations that he's not going to be what he was last year?
I think it's too early to say that. I just think that it's hard. This one just confuses me. It kind of doesn't make sense that he's not doing well.
Right, because I mean, you have Rondale Moore, who he's talented, but he's not D-Hop. He doesn't have any of the traits that D-Hop has. He's just fast. And Max Williams,
we're gonna
old ass AJ Green. Well, I mean, last year it was Jimmy Grandpa for the Bears, and now it's AJ Grandpa for.
I'm curious how many receptions a Bears tight end has this year. It has to be less than 10. I'll look that up. It's been ridiculous, but yeah.
So other possible wide receivers that I would rather take over these guys, or possibly take over these guys: DJ Moore. He's sitting at 22 a game. Mike Williams, who's sitting at 19 a game. Deontay Johnson, who's also sitting at 19 a game. Jamison Crowder for the Jets is actually sitting at 19 a game. And then Brandon Cooks on that terrible offense, that terrible team, is still at 17 a game, which is higher than both Ridley and Hopkins. I would definitely take Moore or Williams over both. Deontay Johnson, maybe I would take over Ridley.
I wouldn't take Deontay Johnson over either of them.
But not Hopkins. Crowder and Cooks, I would still not take over either one yet.
The only reason Deontay Johnson's ahead of them is because of that one play against the Packers.
But I mean, he's also targeted a shitload.
Ben Roethlisberger sucks at this point. I'm not doing that.
Okay, but we could say Matt Ryan also sucks.
Matt Ryan can at least throw the ball down the field.
Yes, Matt Ryan can at least still throw the ball, but that offense is confusing.
And just for the record, the Cole Kmet has 8 receptions. Jimmy Graham has 1. Jesse James, who they signed, has 0. So yes, there are 9 receptions by a Bears tight end this year.
I mean, we've seen plenty of tight ends actually get more than that in one game so far this year.
Mike Gesicki, who had a terrible first 2 weeks, had 10 receptions in week 3. So,
all right. So now we're gonna turn this into the Cordara Patterson show.
I got someone that I'm high on.
Calling this "Hear Me Out," and you can also have your own "Hear Me Out" person.
I do have my own hear me out.
So we're going to start with Cordara Patterson. Ladies and gentlemen, this man should be in your lineups. If he's on waivers, first of all, what league do you play in? How is he on waivers right now? Pick him up. If you got to go trade for him, I mean, don't overpay because it's a volatile situation. But
if I get one more trade for Saquon Barkley for shit, I'm not an idiot. Everyone in our league is trying to buy low on him. They're giving me. Someone offered me Devontae Adams, but I had to give up Terry McLaurin and Saquon Barkley.
I heard about that trade.
Terrible trade.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Like, why Barkley might end up having better numbers the rest of the year.
Would you go straight up for it? Would you go Barkley for Adams?
Just because of how my team is. I have 3 stud receivers. I have Barkley and I have Hunt. So if I get rid of Barkley, I would have that. I mean, if I did straight up if it was maybe Cup for Adams, that'd be a little more juicy because obviously Cup has been fucking amazing, and I think people would make that offer. I'd have to think about that one.
Yeah. Okay. Back on Cordara Patterson. Yeah. He is the running back 2 on the season. 20.9 points per game, 45 touches.
He's a 3. Oxen Eckler has 2 more
points.
I'm looking at the one from Yahoo, which doesn't include those 40-yard touchdown. Actually.
So everything I'm looking at is just base PPR for ESPN.
I think this is half PPR that I'm looking at, perhaps. But yeah, yeah.
45.
Henry's number 1 though. That's for sure.
45 touches throughout the first 4 weeks, 5 touchdowns, all in the last 3 weeks. 100 total yards in the last 2 weeks, and averages 7 yards a touch. Now, we're going to compare this to a few guys.
It just makes me laugh that this dude is just killing it.
He
was on the Bears last year, and I don't know why they got rid of him.
So, we're going to compare him to his counterpart on the Falcons. Mike Davis, on a points per game basis, 11.3. Has 20 more touches. Has 20 more touches than Patterson, but still has less production.
I just want to point out, Mike Davis's worst week, at least I think this is half point PPR, but I'm not sure. His worst week is 10.2. His best week is 13.3. So he's been the model of consistency, you can say the least.
Yeah,
he's been. I mean, if he's your flex option, that's fine. I had him in for a couple weeks, then I was like, Hunt is getting more points.
And you want to have the staple of consistency as a running back. Average 4 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's the staple.
But yeah, let's go back to Corio Patterson.
1 touchdown as well as compared to 5 for Patterson. So, Cordero over Mike Davis, period. Compare him to Zeke Elliott, okay? Now, this is where the numbers are going to look a little different.
Okay, compare him to every running back in the league right now except for Derrick Henry. He's probably better right now.
Yeah, I mean...
It's been ridiculous.
So
it's ridiculous.
Here's the thing. Zeke is averaging 17.6 on 71 touches, 4.9 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns. Okay? Nick Chubb, averaging 14 points a game, 73 touches, 5.5 a touch, and 3 touchdowns. Compare him to Dalvin Cook, 14.5 per game, 61 touches, 5 yards per touch, and a touchdown. Compare him to Alvin Kamara, 14.5, 88 touches, 3.9 per touch, and 2 touchdowns. Here's my whole spiel. He gets the ball less and does more with it than any of these guys. These guys all have more volume than him, but less production. This guy is dynamite, firecracker. They've seen now because I've had him for 3 weeks. I finally put him in one league last week.
And he got 38 points.
In the league I had him in, 42. Okay, so here's the thing. He's done this now 3 weeks in a row. I mean, it's happening. And you got to ride the wave. I don't know if it's going to last, but you'd be silly, especially if you don't have great running backs. I don't have great running backs. So, throw him in. Even if you have like a borderline flex player who you're like, I don't know if I want to start him this week, put Cordara Patterson in
Who
there.
are your other running backs?
In our league, Chase Edmonds and Melvin Gordon. That's it.
Yeah, I would start him over one of them.
Gordon.
I'm more trying to think which one you would start him over.
Melvin Gordon, 100%.
They're actually very close in fantasy points.
And I think
Melvin Gordon has 55 this year. Chase Edmonds has 59.
I like Chase Edmonds better.
Melvin Gordon
regardless.
is boomer bust.
Yeah. But, so my spiel is, the guy just produces. Doesn't matter who he's playing against. It doesn't matter how many touches he gets. And it's been a consistent amount of touches every week. He just produces with those touches. And you have to believe he's going to see more work if he continues to just outdo Mike Davis in every facet of the football.
He's going to get more work. I mean, especially if he plays the Jets next week. That's going to be a good matchup for him.
Oh, yeah. And in London, it'll be cool. Like, we'll talk about that game in a couple of minutes, but if you have any questions about Cordara Patterson, take my advice, play him. You will not regret it, and if you do, you can come onto the comments and say you're a fucking idiot. I'll take it. That's it.
Here's my player, Darnell Mooney. If you watch the game against the Bears, I would go as far to say he is as good as Robinson. And let me explain myself. If I've watched the Bears pretty every game the last 2 years, so I think I feel like I'm a credible source to say that. Robinson is very talk. If you look at a play, he dropped a wide open touchdown against the Bengals. It was right in his chest. It went right through his chest. He also drops catches that a top wide receiver would make, and the reason that I'm not a fan of him is because he talks himself up as a top wide receiver. Yeah. He always complains. And I you know what I said? I don't think I've ever seen someone complain about a team that they willingly signed with than Allen Robinson does.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Talent-wise, maybe Robinson's better, but Darnell Mooney is not here talking himself up as one of the best receivers and not talking himself.
He just goes out and plays.
Exactly. And if you watch a play, like, obviously Justin Fields made some great throws. There was one throw that was a little high. Darnell Mooney reached up, basically one-handed it, and it was amazing. And Darnell Mooney is also really fast, so he got open a lot. He went 5 for 125 last week.
Yeah. I mean, so as much as I harp on Justin Fields, if you look back at Justin Fields in college,
he got a good deep
ball. What was the one thing that he was really good at? It was throwing the ball deep to a guy that is pretty much just a different version of Darnell Mooney and Chris Olave. So if this continues, I drafted Mooney. I liked Mooney, so I think
the thing with Mooney the last couple of years is I've always said Trubisky was very over or underrated. Not saying he was good, but everyone harped on him way too much. But the dude cannot throw deep. He could not throw a deep ball, and that's what Darnell Mooney was specialized in. Not a good Nick Foles. I don't even want to talk about Nick Foles of the Bears.
Right.
But Justin Fields has a really good deep ball, and obviously Justin Fields' biggest problem is he holds the ball too much. Mm-hmm. But when he has the time and throws it deep, it is a perfect pass almost every time.
There is a stat out there somewhere that I would have to look up, but it's a thing called unrealized air yards, and I think Darnell Mooney had to have been in the top 5 even last year in that, because he had 3-4 deep targets every single game that were, I can't reach it here. I can't reach it. It's back there in the defender's hands.
Yeah.
He just didn't have those quarterbacks to give him, those opportunities, and I think he may now. I don't think Justin Fields is great, but that's the one thing he is good at.
The thing I'll say with the last game against the Lions is he made so many throws that were just perfect. And the thing is, they didn't really use him that much. And the thing with Justin Fields, he's still got to learn to do those small throws a little bit. Everybody draws back, he's looking down the field.
Yeah.
And he also is a good scrambler, too. His one interception really wasn't his fault. He threw it, and it got barely tipped to the line, and then it fell into the defender's hand. So it wasn't entirely his fault. It wasn't as bad as the one against the Bengals.
Yeah.
And the thing is, if you watch the Browns game, that was just
there was
I don't
nothing
know
good
what
about
that
it.
the play call. But no, I'm saying like it really wasn't. What more could he have done? I mean, the play calling was just terrible because the thing is that there were so many plays. There was one play specifically. The Bears had 7 guys blocking me. They had 5 linemen, a tight end, and Montgomery. The Browns rushed 4, and they got him in less than a second.
Yeah.
They literally did. They got him in less than a second with rushing 4, and it wasn't even Myles Garrett. They like triple teamed Garrett and left one guy one-on-one, and it was just the Browns game. I don't put on him at all because it was just bad. And I thought he did amazing against the Lions. Yes, it's against the Lions. I know that, but.
I mean, the Lions have been competitive in other games. So
yeah, I mean, he scored more points than the Ravens did, so.
Yeah. Last year I had a vendetta against Adam Gase. This year I have a vendetta against Matt Nagy. He's a absolutely atrocious coach.
Did you see his interview after the game? Bill Lazor did the play calling, which is the offensive coordinator, and he was basically saying like, yeah, Bill Lazor did the offensive coordinator, but all that comes back to me. He was basically taking credit for someone else making the play calls.
Yes, I am the genius that hired this guy. I didn't even hire him either, probably. Somebody else probably did. But I told him what to call, even though he was calling the plays.
I will say the defense is actually better than I thought it'd be. Because I was worried about the secondary after they losing Kyle Fuller, and obviously the Rams game was terrible, but they've been good
But it was
the last
also
couple.
the Rams who...
They've been good the last couple of weeks. The Bengals, they were really good against the Browns. They were doing really good until they just broke because they were always on the field.
Yeah.
The first half, they did really good. And
It's
then
really
I thought
tough on a
they
defense,
did well
too.
against the Lions as well last week. So
I mean, you can look at the Broncos for the past few years. They've had the same problem. If your offense is on the field for 3 plays and then you have to come back out, it's hard to be on the field that much.
that's why I'm surprised the Bears' defense was as good as it was the last couple of years, just because there were so many 3-and-outs. Honestly, though, that 2018 year still hurts me because who knows if Parkey made that field goal, they were riding high.
Mm-hmm.
And they had Vic Fangio, who's amazing, defensively at least.
Very good coach.
I do think he's very good.
I appreciate Vic Fangio. All right, so let's move on to some of the games this week. Let's hop into Thursday night football.
I have a hot take on this. I like the Rams a lot.
Well, yeah.
I know they beat the 49ers, but I'm not high on the Seahawks. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. Pete Carroll is so overrated. You have Russell Wilson, and you've done nothing since the Legion of Boom. And even then, you had the best, as far as I'm concerned, the best defensive lineup since the '85 Bears. That team was so stacked on defense, and you won 1 championship, and now you've done nothing with Russell Wilson. Fire Pete Carroll now. He's so overrated.
I could actually get behind that. You see with the Seahawks, you see Russell Wilson first couple weeks, and then immediately it's just downhill. This year was way faster. It was like week 1 and then gone. The Seahawks just stopped going to Wilson.
Do you watch Colin Cowherd? He always says, what are the Seahawks good at that isn't Russell Wilson? The answer is nothing.
Right.
There is nothing. It's really Russell Wilson or bust. And Pete Carroll, he's a defensive-minded coach, right? Or is he supposed to be?
Right.
Yeah, I think the Rams are, especially after what happened with Arizona, they're going to come in hot.
Yeah, how do we feel about that loss? 37-20? I mean, I thought this game was going to be at least close.
I think it's a more pro for the Cardinals than it is against the Rams, because we have to also remember the games around the games you play matter a lot.
Right.
And they had just played the Buccaneers. That was their Super Bowl matchup. I think the Cardinals got them in a really good spot, and it was the one reason why I didn't think and if you watch the Bills game against the Texans, they're playing the Chiefs this week. They're probably looking ahead. It was wasn't it 13-0 at the half? It should have been way more than that. Yeah. Obviously, by the second half, they kind of pulled away.
Yeah.
But I think that was also a case of them just kind of looking ahead. And another example was the Ravens against the Lions. They had just played the Chiefs. They just won. They were riding high. And then they came in. They're like, oh, the Lions we should actually take the Lions seriously.
Right.
I think that's a product. You see that a lot. And I think I know it's a short week, but I think they're really going to be like, guys, we can't do that again. And I really think they're going to win this game.
So, players to kind of watch. You got Matt Stafford, obviously. Darrell Henderson Jr., if he's fully healthy, is he a guy you roll out in a running back 2 spot?
So you said Darrell Henderson?
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, Darrell Henderson's been solid. He's a guy, like, I always say, you can't always have, like, Derrick Henry as your running back 1. So if that's one of your running backs you place in, I think that's a good one.
Yeah, I'd be fine with him. He's another one that's consistent, not necessarily a boom.
Let's talk about this one. I want to talk about this one also.
Yeah, I got
and
that
then
one on.
Perhaps, and then these two, obviously.
Right, yeah. The only one I don't have would be...
Well, maybe not this one, but definitely this one for sure. But I want to talk about this game. We'll get to it in a minute. Let's say talk about Ramsey.
And then another guy, Robert Woods. What do we think about Woods?
He's been fine. I mean, he has been amazing. But, again, he's another one that, it depends on who your wide receivers are. I got very lucky because I honestly, before the draft, liked Woods more. I'm glad that Cooper Kupp fell to me, though, in our draft. But I have him in my other league, and I think he's been fine. He's scored like 10 to 15 points every week, which he's one of my flex guys. I think that's fine. Like, he hasn't really been someone that I've been angry about. He's scored 12, 6, 14. Not that good, but I think he's been fine, honestly.
Yeah, it's a spot where if you went out and went in on Cordara Patterson right away, you would have had a better option there. But God, I love Cordara Patterson, and now watch, I'm talking about him so much. He's going to have a gooser week. And then on the Seahawks side, like you said, they just beat the Niners. Wilson, what do we expect to see from this offense? Because Russell Wilson's kind of disappeared. Tyler Lockett the last 2 weeks has kind of disappeared. DK Metcalf has kind of been there.
I expect them to do what Pete Carroll's offense always does. Run really heavily in the first half, you have Russell Wilson, and then you're down 21-3, so you just keep throwing the ball. Final score is like 38-31. A lot closer than it looks, but the Rams are going to be ahead this whole game, I think.
So does that make you like Chris Carson anymore?
I honestly, I have Metcalf in my league. I don't like him this game because Jalen Ramsey's amazing. And if you look at basically any receiver, any number one receiver that Ramsey faces, it basically just disappears.
But the way this season's gone so far, who would you consider that number one receiver? Just DK Seahawks? Because he's bigger?
DK because plus Ramsey is better at defending those big receivers. The one receiver that has given Ramsey the most trouble is Tyreek Hill. Yeah. And Tyler Lockett is closer to him than Metcalf is. Yeah. So I like Tyler Lockett more in this game than Metcalf. Are you saying
that Jalen Ramsey is slow?
He's better, like I say, he's better guarding those physical big receivers like Hopkins was. Hopkins is he's not as fast. Or even like Mike Evans, he did against the Buccaneers really good. So
right. So we'll kind of just breeze through this game, only talking about it because it's the London game. Make sure you get up early. It's
7:30 our time.
7:30 Mountain Time. So that'd be 9 o'clock Eastern.
6:30 in the West Coast.
Yeah, so early game, the Jets and the Falcons. Yep, that's about all we need to say about that.
I like the Falcons. Let's move on.
Yeah.
And then the Patriots and Houston. I like the Patriots. Move on.
Yeah. Next one, the Eagles and the Panthers. I think this one's kind of intriguing to think about. The Eagles, their offense, I'm still okay with, but I don't think their defense is all that good.
The Panthers were almost my survivor pick this week, honestly.
The Panthers have honestly looked good on both sides of the ball. Sure, they lost to the Cowboys 36-28, but it's also the Cowboys who have a lot of firepower, and they're actually a good offense. But Sam Darnold still went out and had 4 touchdowns that game. So I honestly like the Panthers more in this game, but some of the fantasy options for this game are great, in my opinion. Jalen Hurts, I would play him, depending on...
Jalen Hurts has been like one of the fifth quarterback in fantasy.
He's not bad at all. Miles Sanders, he's kind of underperformed, and Kenneth Gainwell has actually seen a lot more of the receiving work for that running back room. So of those two, I don't know who I would start or if I would start either of them. It just depends on your running backs.
I haven't really thought too much about this game, but I would only start some of the receivers for the Eagles. I think I'd
start Devontae Smith or Dallas Goedert.
Yeah, I would start Devontae Smith.
And then on the Panthers side, I'd honestly start everybody. Fire them all up, except for
Chuba Hubbard.
Yeah. Which is kind of hard because, like, you probably went and picked him up if you were a CMC owner because you're like, okay, he's just going to be what Mike Davis was last year. And sure, it was only 1 week, but he did not look good at all.
I think the Panthers are just going to throw the ball a lot more. Fire up Sam Darnold, though. He could be one of the top quarterbacks.
Do we see a little more from Robbie Anderson? We saw more from him last week.
Perhaps, yeah. I think it's hard to tell. For Robbie Anderson, it just really takes one big play for him to have a good week.
But the problem has been the first 3 weeks, at least, he was one target. At least this past week, it was really good. He had 8 to 10. It was a good target game. He might have even had over 10. But it's exactly what you would have wanted to see from Robbie Anderson at all. But DJ Moore, you're a stud. I'm sorry I said you were not good. I apologize.
Yeah, he's going to be good this week.
But yeah, so the Panthers on that one I like. And then the Browns and Chargers. I know this is a game you also pointed out. This is
circle this game. This is the game of the week outside of the Sunday night game. Browns versus Chargers. This is the game of the week outside of the Chiefs versus Bills. I think this is going to be a really intriguing game.
Okay.
I
honestly like it. I like it.
Name another matchup where there's two teams that could theoretically make it to the Super Bowl. Outside the Sunday night
about
game.
the Chargers.
Tell me what they're bad at.
I think before the last 2 weeks they were bad at scoring. And there's a possibility of that happening in any sort of stretch.
It's a new coach, though. It's obviously going to be a slow start.
But who also had problems with scoring against the Vikings last week? The Browns.
Baker Mayfield. I admit that was one of his worst.
That was a bad game.
Does Cleveland not have the best defense in the league?
I would argue and say they do.
I know it's the Bears, but that was one of the just most embarrassing offensive performances I've ever seen by a team.
Well, and then they held the Vikings, who have Justin Jefferson, who's really good.
The Vikings have been way better than people give them credit for.
Adam Thielen played. Like, they had all their weapons. They still mixed in Madison with Cook. But
outside of the second half against the Chiefs, they've been basically dominant this year.
Yeah. And then, again, that 1-2 punch of Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt on the offense.
But who you got in this game, though? That's the real question. I'm going to go with the I'm going to go with the Browns.
Yeah.
Just because I believe Baker Mayfield will bounce back. And the Chargers have a shorter week. It probably will affect them just slightly. And I trust the Browns defense more than the Chargers defense. Yeah. But I think the it's not like I was low on the Chargers, but I'm like, oh yeah, the Chiefs are probably going to still win this division. We don't know about that anymore. The Chargers, I think, are a lot better than most people thought. I was mostly just worried about, new head coach and see, because a lot of times new head coaches get off to a slow start, and they kind of did.
Yeah.
But they're already seem to be rolling.
Yeah, and you have Justin Herbert, who's a stud, Austin Eckler, who's a stud, Mike Williams, who surprisingly is their number one wide receiver right now. Keenan Allen's still mixing in well. Jared Cook's looking really good. Mm-hmm. It's just a potent offense, but anytime I'm close on a game, I'll choose whoever's got the better defense in Cleveland. Mm-hmm. But look at against the Raiders last week against the Chargers. The Chargers gave them horrible fits for the entire first half. It seemed like the Raiders couldn't block anything. And I don't think it's because the Raiders are bad. The
Raiders just can't play in the first half.
Their offensive line also is kind of banged up, which might have affected it. But yeah, I think the Browns... Man, I don't know, because I don't know if I trust the Browns offense as much as I trust
I trust the Browns offense after a bad week. Let's just say that. So I
trust them to run the ball 50 times with 2 different running backs.
Can the Browns just drop Odell? Don't even try him. Just drop him. Baker Mayfield's clearly worse with him on the field.
Yeah.
Like, if the Browns were smart, they would drop him today.
But, a guy you did kind of see a little bit last week, more than Odell, actually, was Rashad Higgins, who he's pretty good, too. But they kind of need Jarvis out there. Jarvis gives life to that passing game.
The MVPs for the Browns offense, though, are the two running backs, 100%.
100%. And, I mean, that's... If any team had an identity, it would be the Browns. Run the ball, defense.
Mm-hmm.
That's about as classic of a team ID as you can have. And it's been working for them. They finally made the playoffs last year, and they look good this year. So, any other games before we hop into Sunday night?
The San Francisco at 49ers. I like San Francisco at 49ers is the same team. 49ers at the Cardinals. I like the Cardinals a lot in this game because I just think this week is there's the quarterback controversy, which is never a good thing. And I think the Cardinals are coming back home. I really like them. Giants at Cowboys. That game's gonna be a lot closer than people think, though.
No, it's not.
I think it will.
It's
the Giants have basically not gotten blown out in the last 2 years, except for the Broncos week 1 when they had everyone injured on the offense.
The Giants don't have the defense to keep up with. I'm not going to say that the Giants defense is better than the Panthers defense. The Panthers defense is good. The Giants defense is not. The Giants may be able to score a bit, but something else that shocked me this year is Dallas's defense is better than advertised.
Yeah, someone said the Cowboys might actually be underrated for the first time ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that game's going to be close at all, but maybe that's something we can see.
I think it'll be close. I think it'll be the Cowboys will be leading by around 10 points the whole game, but the Giants will keep creeping in. I think the final score will be within one score.
Well, and it's not a Thursday night game. Divisional games, I'm always kind of wary about, but only if they're Thursday night games, because for some reason there's something in the air on Thursday nights that just makes games weird. I think the Cowboys will handle that game.
All right, let's talk about this gauntlet of the Sunday night game.
So we got the Bills and Chiefs. The Bills finally, they kind of got out to a slow start themselves, but
a 1 week slow start.
Yeah, they're back. They're completely back on it.
People have been saying they haven't played anyone. The Dolphins and Washington are capable teams, and they're blowing them out.
Yeah,
the last 3 weeks they have humiliated the teams they played.
Yeah,
I'm giving a pass on the Texans though. Texans are terrible.
Well, I mean,
but the Dolphins
you have to win the games that you're supposed to win.
But we have seen the Broncos are a good example. It's not the best.
We have to temper that with we had to bring in Drew Lock for a majority of the game, and Drew Lock looked exactly like Drew Lock looks, and that's absolutely dog shit. Teddy Bridgewater's not bad. He led them all the way down the field for the first drive. He looked good. He got hit, and that should have been a damn penalty. Helmet to helmet contact.
I saw that. That should
even a quarterback at the most. It wouldn't have changed anything. He would have still been concussed. But.
I think the Bills are absolutely way ahead in point differential. I mean, they won 35-0. What was their score against Washington? I don't remember, but they won 40-0 against the Texans.
Yeah, and this offense is looking real good.
They won 43-21 against Washington. I mean, the Dolphins and Washington have capable defenses.
I would argue to say Washington's defense is not capable in any sort of way now. I don't know why, but they're not.
I'm just laughing at just how badly the Bills have won the last couple of weeks. With that said, I still think I'm going to pick the Chiefs in this game because I worry about the quote-unquote monkey on Josh Allen's back when it comes to Patrick Mahomes.
That's fair.
He hasn't beaten him yet.
That's fair.
Here's the thing. Obviously, the Bills' defense is better than the Chiefs' defense.
Yes. Correct.
But I think the Chiefs are going to come to play more than the Bills, just slightly. Now, I think if they could lose this game, but then end up being the Chiefs in the playoffs later, I think it's possible. This one's so tough, though.
Here's the thing. How many points, because they gave up 30 last week, has the Chiefs' defense given up to the teams they've played?
I'm pretty sure I think 30 was the lowest score that they've given up.
Because they give up so many damn points and against an offense that can score a lot.
The Chiefs have given up 29 against the Browns, 30 against the Chargers, 36 against the Ravens, 30 against the Bills.
The Chiefs are going to get their asses whooped this week. That's my
on
hot take.
offense, defensively. I think
they're going to get their asses whooped. They might keep up a little bit.
Over under 80 points scored in this game.
Over.
I mean, here's the thing: the Chiefs. Good as the Bills' defense is, I don't think the Chiefs' offense is going to stutter.
What was the game last year? Maybe it was the year before. It was the Chiefs and somebody else.
The Chiefs and Rams a couple years ago.
Yeah, it was like
54-51.
Yeah, that's going to be the Sunday night game. But I think it could even be the Bills 60 to the Chiefs 40. That's way too much. I would say 40 to 24.
You think the Bills are going to win that much?
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
I'm going to go... My final score is Chiefs 43, Bills 40. Because I don't think the Chiefs' offense is going to sputter against the Bills' defense.
It's not that I think it's going to sputter, but it's not going to keep up with the Bills.
Play every single Chiefs player, including McCole Hardman this week.
Including Josh Gordon?
Maybe not him. Play DeMarcus Robinson. Is he even still on the Chiefs?
What about the Bills, fantasy-wise? I need to know. Zach Moss, is he somebody we're investing in as a running back?
Yes. This week, yes. Play every single player on every single team in this game.
Dawson Knox. But I'll give you context. Dawson Knox or Dalton Schultz for the Cowboys, who's got...
Dawson Knox, easily. Because Blake Jarwin, I think, will eventually become the number one tight end there.
When?
It's possible.
When?
I don't know.
Schultz has easily overtaken that spot 3 weeks in a row with 2 touchdowns in the last 2 weeks.
I just feel like Dallas is more of a wide receiver team. That's why
tell that to CeeDee Lamb, who's sitting on my bench because he's gotten nothing.
Well, I did tell you about that. I did tell you that there are too many mouths to feed in Dallas' offense. But start Dawson Knox over Schultz easily, though.
Well, maybe I'll take your advice because in one league I have both.
Especially this week.
Dawson Knox, or what about Max Williams, who's been showing out?
Dawson Knox.
All right.
I would say Dawson Knox is probably higher than most tight ends. I would say there's only about 6 or 7. I would say take the other one
over Travis Kelce.
Yeah. Travis Kelce's going to score 30 points. Tyreek Hill's going to score 30 points. Mahomes
Tyreek's going to score 50.
We'll see. I'm with you. He's in my other league, so.
But yeah, I think that'll be a really fun game to watch. I think it'll be very high scoring, but I think the Bills still beat them by at least 2 touchdowns.
I mean, I would be surprised if they win by 2 touchdowns. I wouldn't be surprised if they win. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if either team wins. The Chiefs are 2.5-point favorites, though, just because they are at home. So.
Yeah. And then hop into Monday night. This one's not nearly as exciting. You have Carson Wentz and the boring-ass Colts against the Ravens, who are pretty much as equally as boring. The most exciting play I've seen from them was Marquise Brown last week on that diving touchdown catch.
4th and 19 against the Lions?
Okay, cool.
But the 4th and 1 against the Chiefs.
Okay,
though.
Actually, no. The most exciting moment for the Ravens all year, regardless of what
Lamar
happens.
Jackson flipping into the end zone?
No, it was Justin Tucker kicking a 66-yard field goal. Come on. Put respect on that man.
I don't think the Ravens are boring. What about when they humiliated the Broncos by running 5 yards to break the record?
The Broncos game should be null and void. We had
Drew Lock
in, which I really, really, really hope Teddy is not out for more than last week. Hopefully he's back in this week. But if he's not in this week, I hope he's back the week after because we cannot survive Drew Lock.
If Drew Lock starts, the Denver versus Pittsburgh game is going to be 3-0 final score. It's going to be like 3-0.
Which kicker will win the game?
It's basically going to be the game. But yeah, I mean, the thing with the Ravens, as we've seen, they can beat every team, but they can also lose to every team.
Yeah, and
I will never bet against them. I would never bet for or against the Ravens because I have no idea what team's going to show up.
The Ravens, honestly, I'm just saying, they don't do anything that excites me. They don't score a ton of points. They lose games that like they lost against the Raiders when in a game they had so many opportunities to win.
I don't want to assume this, but they seem a little arrogant. Like, I don't know.
Look at who their quarterback is. Obviously,
they just seem like they think they're hot shit, and that they can just roll into. I don't know.
That literally goes back to my point of look who their quarterback is when he just goes out and is like, this league has no idea what I am. I mean, granted, he was asked, has the league figured you out? And he said, no, you guys haven't seen anything yet.
I feel like they think that they're way better than they think they are. And like I said, that's a terrible attitude to have. As you can see,
playoff win. That's enough said.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was not, they're not, I don't know. But they'll beat the Colts.
Probably. Again, like I said, I'm probably never going to bet for or against the Ravens because I have no idea what team's going to show up. Because like I said, they beat the Chiefs and then they should have lost to the Lions.
Yeah. And they are going up against a double ankle sprain. I don't know how the hell you sprain both your ankles. You heard about that, right? Yeah. You just, Are you playing anything for the Colts?
My kicker, maybe.
No Jonathan Taylor?
I have dropped Greg Zerling after the Cowboys went for 2 twice.
Yeah.
For no reason. So, probably Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. Maybe Michael Pittman Jr.?
No. Carson Wentz sucks. Let's be honest. This was his last chance to prove something, and he hasn't. Because he has the same... Because everyone's saying the Colts quarterback job was a very... What's what I'm looking for? Like, very, like... It was a very good opening for a quarterback position. Phillip Rivers did really good with them last year.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz, not only does he get that job, but he also has his the head coach is his coordinator. The year he was really, really good, and he hasn't been good. This was his last
lined
chance.
up for him, and it's just not.
This was his last chance to prove something.
One other guy I want to talk about, Tyson Williams for the Ravens. Is he just done?
No, because he has the best name, Tyson. It's not Tyson, it's Tyson.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean...
I didn't pronounce the hyphen.
Could be a healthy scratch in week 4. And
not
was
hyphen,
he?
Apostrophe. Yeah, he was a healthy scratch week 4.
That's always a bad sign.
So, I mean, they're in good hands. Latavius Murray.
Most underrated running back.
Pretty good. And I actually got to pick him up off waivers in a secondary league, so I like that. I like that a lot. All right. Any final thoughts?
I mean, I think the Bengals-Packers game will be good. It's in Cincinnati.
That's honestly not a bad idea.
Here's the thing. Justin Herbert is amazing, but is Joe Burrow is probably just as good. And they were drafting everyone because here's the thing. If Joe Burrow didn't get hurt at the time of his injury, his numbers were better than Justin Herbert's last year. So we'll see.
Know.
I do think it's funny that the Dolphins drafted Tua 1 pick before Justin Herbert.
Yeah. Well, honestly, if you look at it, everybody was kind of sleeping on Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm.
They were talking more about could he be a leader and is he gonna be mentally good enough to, play quarterback. And they didn't pay attention to what? He's 6'4". He's big as shit.
Big, he's got a cannon of an arm.
Well,
he's
because mobile.
People say he wasn't very highly recruited before he went to Oregon. So people weren't as high on him.
He's just been slept on his whole career. And did you hear who was it? Adam Schefter on Monday night before the also a lightning delay in an indoor stadium.
What was that?
But anyway, Adam Schefter said Justin Herbert is already a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Yeah, okay, yeah, let's speak it out.
Excuse me, that's almost crazier than saying Patrick Mahomes after his second year was a first ballot Hall of Famer because he threw for 50 touchdowns.
I mean,
we're getting a little crazy.
Everyone says Mahomes' second year. That was basically his rookie year. I know he played one game in the final week of the season, but
which he also looked very good in. He looked good from the time he stepped on the field. I'm pretty sure that last game he played was against the Broncos at the very end of the year.
The final score was 27-24. The Chiefs won, but he only completed 50% of his passes, so it was still like, oh, will he be good?
Yeah.
And then they just gave him the helm.
All right.
Where does Justin Herbert rank in the quarterbacks under 30? So obviously, Mahomes is a high
Where
ahead
are we
of him.
sitting at with quarterbacks under 30?
So is he?
That seems like everybody almost right
Herbert or Mahomes?
now. Well, Mahomes.
Herbert or
Who's
Josh
number
Allen?
one? Allen.
Herbert or Lamar Jackson?
Herbert.
I would say Herbert. And then what about like Herbert or Kyler Murray?
As of right now, I'd still say Kyler Murray.
Yeah. Herbert or Dak Prescott? Dak Prescott needs to get his due.
Fringe. That's fringe.
I
Still
would
say Dak.
I would lean Herbert. But the thing with I've heard about Kyler Murray is I've heard he's not the best leader. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
I've heard some rumors about that. And then Herbert or Joe Burrow?
Herbert. But here's the thing also, is we've had a season and 4 games of Herbert as compared to all of those other guys
Yeah.
who are pretty good, and they've had quite a bit of time to make themselves that. I think potentially Herbert can be much better than all of those guys, except for maybe Patrick Mahomes and maybe Josh Allen, because Josh Allen's on the precipice of taking his team to a Super Bowl.
I mean,
And Mahomes is there every year.
some people have said that Josh Allen has a higher ceiling than Mahomes. He just needs to polish himself up a bit. The dude is 6'6", runs probably faster than Mahomes, has a cannon of an arm.
He's fantastic.
He's a freak of nature.
There's a secret key that I
Here's-
don't
okay.
think he is still yet found.
Here's the thing. If Josh Allen was drafted by Andy Reid and Mahomes was drafted to the Bills, you're telling me that Josh Allen would not be better. If you're telling me if Mahomes would still be better, I think you're a fool, in my opinion. Because, I mean, that's no disrespect to Patrick Mahomes. He is wildly benefiting from his situation.
Yes, but you also have to look at the Bills. Also, you have to give their coaching staff their due to actually unlock the potential of Josh Allen. Because, sure, he was great coming out of Wyoming. He was a great
The thing with
quarterback,
Josh Allen,
but he was not.
He was not good his rookie year. There were flashes, but as a whole, he really wasn't.
So
good.
I think what we got to take out of this is give the Bills coaching staff a lot of props for being able to pull that out of him. Because had the Bills taken Mahomes, they would have had the raw talent
Yeah.
that was already unlocked in there.
Well, the thing is,
But
Mahomes
it's more impressive.
Mahomes was just like Josh Allen coming out of college, had an immensely amount of talent, but had a very big bust potential, and both of them just got great coaching.
Yeah.
That helped him out. Also, one last thing I do want to mention: I wore this today in honor of the MLB postseason.
I don't want to talk about
'cause the
anything you
Yankees-
want to talk about.
Well, here's the thing: I'm not going to rub it in your face.
We're going to
because
go ahead and just shut the...
I'm not going to rub it in your face and say anything because I don't want bad karma for the White Sox.
So-
but who do you got going to the World Series and who do you got winning?
Anybody but the fucking Red Sox.
Because you're a Yankees.
Oh, that just makes it hurt even more. I knew that the Yanks, every year I know they're not going to make the World Series. They're going to maybe win one game, one series, and then lose. But it hurts so much more that it was wild card against the Red Sox. That's a hard pill to swallow. Anyway, before I start crying, we're going to go ahead and end the show.
You didn't even answer my question. Who you got in the World
I
Series?
said anybody but the Red Sox.
All right.
I
I got Dodgers over White Sox.
yeah, I think the Dodgers.
As much as it pains
definitely
me,
are there.
my brain tells. I still think, even outside my heart, I still think the White Sox have the best team in the AL, in my opinion. They're the only team that's healthy. The Rays don't have Tyler Glasnow, and the Astros don't have.
also dog shit. Anybody who's in the Yankees division's dog shit.
Well, okay.
I'm upset.
Here's the thing. How can you not be rooting for the White Sox then? You have the Rays and the Red Sox and the Astros who cheated you guys out of a World Series.
Because you also have the Dodgers. The Dodgers are cool.
No, I mean in AL. How can you not root for the White Sox in the AL?
I just don't want anybody.
Anybody.
I just want to pout for... This is fresh. This happened last night. You got to give me some time to mourn.
Well, I'm not going to rub it in your face because, like I said, I don't want bad karma.
All right. Anyway, don't forget to like the show, share it, subscribe, all of those kinds of things. Don't forget to follow Jacob on Facebook.
As not sports, meteorologist Jacob Montesano.
Meteorologist Jacob Montesano. All of our links are in the header. You can go check those out. Tune in tomorrow for the Lucky Bets portion with Dylan Corbett. And that's it. So good luck in your fantasy matchups. Tune in next week. Thanks for joining.